Okay, so in this video, we're going to set up the new document. So I'm not going to toggle between, say, the course page. I don't even have the course page open right now. But I want you to open up this Google Doc and follow alongside me in InDesign. So as opposed to toggling between the course page and, for instructions, open up this Google Doc and follow alongside with me. If you want to, I didn't provide checkboxes next to each. It just kind of makes the Google Doc look a little bit too complicated. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of a check off to make sure that I've completed everything. I'll just be colorizing, and I'll show you. I'll do that along as we go to kind of make sure that I'm capturing and actually doing everything that's described or instructed on this Google Doc. So let's set up the new document. I'm going to close this one. That's just to show you kind of what it's going to look like in the end. And I might open it just to make sure I have reference. Actually, maybe I'll just keep it open just to make sure that I have it as reference. I also have, obviously, I have exported the PDF already, so we can kind of use that as well. Now, you can make yours look exactly the same as I am instructing, or by all means feel free to interpret and make it as your own. And I'm going to show you, I'll probably play with it along with you, but I'm going to show you some tricks and some things to obviously be aware of. But please, please, please make this your own and make it as interesting and as different and experimental as you want. You do not have to follow this, word by word, exactly. Okay, so that being said, let's do a new document. Now, obviously, if you're on a PC, these menu items are going to be slightly different, but we should all know by now, new document. And then I have some things on here that I want you to follow. So if you don't have your units to inches already set up, I've done that in my preferences. So I have it automatically set up as inches. If you have yours as picas, obviously then change it to inches and then make it 8. I'm just going to copy that width and copy this height. Now I've said in the instructions that this is kind of a common US magazine size. And that's true. So by all means, follow that one for sure. Okay, so we have done those, and just to kind of show you what I'm going to hopefully keep on top of doing that, so we know that we've completed it. Now this needs to be 6 pages. It is going to be a 4-page double spread, so it's going to look like this. So these are spreads. Spreads are also called facing pages in InDesign. So I always think of describing them as like pages that you would say open up in the magazine, and these left and right face each other. And so those are also called spreads. So we're going to create those right off the bat in InDesign. So it's going to be 6 pages. We're going to keep that facing pages checked. Now we're going to do something that's maybe a little bit strange to some of you, myself included. I have not done this very often, is that because we're going to theoretically, this magazine article would be starting, say, in the middle of a magazine as opposed to the start of the magazine or the first page of the magazine. So we're going to do this funny thing here where we actually start the article or the page numbering at a specific number. So you say you're working on an editorial, and the article is going to be in the middle of the magazine. So we're actually going to make the start kind of in the middle of the magazine. So there are 3 spreads, and then also when you have it's starting, say we have a 6-page, so 3 spreads, and it starts on a certain page. In the past, when we've done facing pages, we've had it start on page 1, so you get that single page, but now we're going to start it. It's actually going to be a double page spread right off the bat. Okay, so that we're going to set the margins to 0 right now because we're actually going to change them later and do that in the master pages. I'm just going to click the little link here so they will all respond at exactly the same time as opposed to one individually. And then the bleeds, just like always, they're going to be 1/8 of an inch or 0.125. So if in the bleeds, we just click the up button, or you can copy and paste that 0125 if you prefer. So that's all we're going to do in the create new document. And then when we open it and I'm just toggling, pressing the W, we have no grids, we have no lines, we have no margins, but we do have 6 pages. So, and if I go into press W again, my pages window, I can see that it starts on page 48 and it ends on page 53, as opposed to, say, I had, just so you can kind of see the difference here. If I start on page 1, you can kind of see that when you do that, starting on page 1, you get that first page as a single page and that last page as a single page, just like a little booklet, yeah, like a little booklet, but we don't want to do that. This is theoretically starting kind of in the middle of a document or middle of a magazine, so we want to have those double page spreads right off the bat. In the next video, we're going to be working with, we're not finished this video, excuse me. Like I said, I'm a little bit amateurist, so I'm kind of getting things all over the place yet, so bear with me here. So, like I said, we're starting here on the left and ending on the right, unlike the other one I just showed you where you have that first and that last page as single pages. And next thing I want to show you, or the last thing I want to show you before this video ends, is that I want to show you the necessary windows and the workspace. So if some of you are still kind of struggling with workspaces, workspaces is kind of this whole thing, right? So this is kind of everything that we're seeing, the UX, the UI, this is our workspace. So we have the top control here, we have our tools, we have our pages that we're working with, and then we have all of our windows. These are called windows. Now, the top control, there are a few different ways the top control responds depending on which tool that we're using, and then some of the top controls here mimic the windows. So for instance, the character and the paragraph, these are in the control as well when we have the type tool selected. The selection tool, this is also, do I have it here? I don't have the transform window. If I had the transform, you would see that is also the transform window and the control window mimic each other when the selection tool is active. And then there's really only those, there's not too much, so too many options for the control. The image frame is just pretty much the same as it is exactly the same as the control for the tool. So you really only see a big difference when you're using the type tool and the frame tool or the selection tool. The gradient does nothing, the scissors do nothing, but we're not going to use those. The pen does nothing. And then just to make everything even more confusing, the top control also has a little drop down, just like it's called a panel window or panel drop down. The windows also have those panel drop downs, or I call them the hamburger. And that top control also has a panel drop down, and that changes depending on what tool that you're using. And in some cases, it depends on, so if I have the type tool selected, that panel drop down window hamburger, aka hamburger, changes in compared to, say, I have the selection tool active, and that will show some other options. So very confusing, I know, but that's kind of what we have to work with, and it's actually, once you get the hang of it, it's very handy. So last, I just want to show you how to, I have all these windows open. If you do not have the correct windows open, you're going to need to open them. It's very important for our workability. So windows are all accessible up here in the window menu. The workspace I have set up is my own special Chloe one, but for the sake of ease for us, we can just use the typography one. That's going to be, again, the typography, window typography. And let me just double check that that's what I've specified in here. Yeah, workspace typography. Now, there's one more window that we really should have active and open, and it is the object and layout and the align window. This is something, I already have it there. So that is something, if you don't have that open, absolutely grab that. Now, again, windows can be moved around. We can accidentally drag them out and replace them or mess them up. So when we do that, the workspace called reset, will rearrange them and see what happens when I reset it. That align window is no longer there because it's not part of the preset. Now, previously I showed you, yeah, so there's the line, so I'm just going to drag it over here. And now I have, technically this is not the typography because I've added that align window. And you'll notice that when I go to my Chloe, I have a few other interactive things happening here. But if I go back to typography, I don't have that align. Oh, there it is. So if you want to save any of this window arrangement or the windows that you feel like you're using all the time, you can always do the same as me and just go new workspace. And this could be MKTG 3418, for instance. And just again, if you drag things, windows out or rearrange them, the convenience of having a workspace that you have saved is that it will just all go back. Once you reset it, it will all rearrange and go back to how you have originally programmed it. So in the next video, we're going to now start adding some content to that. Oh, last but not least, save it, please. Save as. I'm just going to put this on my desktop. And we're going to call it Perone last name. What have I specified? Last name magazine grid. I'm just going to copy that. Don't need that double underscore, and I don't need that extra space there. Okay, so save that, and the next video we'll start adding some content.